All right, I received a few questions that we are going to go through. And let me see, I think there were three, yeah, there were four questions actually, but three of them I have set aside for tonight as they all have to do with sketchbooks. And that's, after all, the main thing we are going to take a look at in today's live call as well, simply because we generally focus these sessions on doing something creative in the sketchbooks. And I know, because I'm not teaching watercolors or art, that many of you might still want those questions answered. So let's do that in today's call, as I'm really itching to get back into my sketchbooks as well. Now I'll flip over the camera as soon as I've made sure if we're going to have more participants or if more people are going to join, just so that you can have the first-hand view of the desk where we're going to work on. So hang on, it might get a little bit dizzy. So let's give it a minute or so and see who else pitches up. Now, maybe you won't be able to see everything on my desk. So the camera is set up to show our watercolor palette, the water, the types of paper we're going to use, the paint brushes, and the candle and the coffee mug, and the bits and bobs extras, the little pamper things won't be visible. But if you brought something warm to drink, cheers. Let's take on this relaxation session and get right to it. I don't see any new people joining. And if you join, just, you know the drill by now. Get your sketchbooks, get your art supplies, and let's start this beautiful creative journey today, getting ourselves into a creative mode or creative mood to make something pretty in our sketchbooks, and just break away from home life and office, from home life and office, and unwind for a couple of minutes. So I'll keep on monitoring the screen as I flip you over to the desk and chat about what you can see there. So hang on, it's going to feel a bit dizzy. All right, what we have here, a Reeves watercolor 300 GSM watercolor pad. There's only 12 sheets in this pad, and it has a medium texture. Really lovely to work with. It is a less expensive alternative, which is really good news for our pockets. I'll show you in a minute or so how that paper reacts. And then the good old-fashioned Montmartre, this one with the yellow. I think I've got another one to show you right now, but that's okay. As I unpack everything here, I'll give it a go and show you anyway. So this is just my regular koi watercolor set. I've had it for quite some time and have added some custom-made watercolor paints from a lady from Etsy, and I have filled up a few of these wells with my own paint over time, as they do get used up pretty fast if they become your favorite colors. So I'm not going to go over the colors just yet or maybe not even at all. These are regular Holcraft pointed rounds, a 10 and an 8. This is a Japanese mop brush, regularly made from goat hair or hog hair or some or other organic type of bristle. Then I have a border brush and water that you can wet your palette with just to get it started, or like I used to say, to wake it up. And then just water off to the side and blotting towels. Okay, so let's get to the first question. The first question was by Joe, and Joe wants to know, is the sketchbook sessions you talk about only for meditation? I'm looking to get into it, but don't know how it will help. Can you shed some light on this? Well, Joe, to put it simply, a sketchbook practice can be both mindful, it can be creative, you can use it to learn, and you can certainly use it for meditation. And the way you would go about that is by doing little practice drills. Now, I'll show you one page in this sketchbook where I literally took an afternoon and sat down with muddy colors in the palette and just made leaf shapes. Now, filling a whole page like this is extremely meditative, and it helps your mind get off of a topic or something that you just don't feel like thinking about anymore. You can do random shapes like these flowers or leaves with different colors, or these shapes like I showed you minutes ago. But you can also create a page. So, like in my sketchbook journal, I would choose a medium, for instance, the ink with a dip pen, and draw meditatively in the sketchbook to fill a spread or a page. Other things you can do is just use your brush and make shapes if you want to. You can even paint two scenes where you maybe notice a home or a building or a scenery that you'd like to capture. These, for instance, were a Skillshare class, but I used one topic, which was the sunflowers, and did it in a variety of ways while also playing with the dip. The spread like this can be very meditative, where you use a block of time. This one was, for instance, when I sat waiting for Dominic to finish up work when he worked at a puppy farm. So I sat outside and wasn't allowed into the premises, but I sat outside and painted the scene. And that was also really meditative. You'll see that I have another session here, another meditation session. But this one, I absolutely took a travel magazine and daydreamed about going to Japan, and in that daydream captured that meditation session like this. So, yes, it is at all possible to use your sketchbooks for meditation and meditative practices. It's all about calming the mind, finding rest, relaxation, and moments of joy and happiness. There's another one where I needed a little bit of sunshine. There we go. And the kids and I went outside, lay on our towels, and all I did was soak up some vitamin D and drew these random flowers that don't really mean a thing. You can also use markers and do something repetitive that can be relaxing. All right, now the second question is by Susan. Susan asks, is mindfulness something you can actually do in a sketchbook, and how do you do it? Also, I like the postcards you recently shared on Insta. Are they for sale? So I don't know if I actually shared postcards on Instagram, but maybe it could be either the play and paint classes, or it could be in my story. So I'll show you what I've shared in my story. I don't know if these are the ones you were referring to. Maybe, I'm not completely sure, but no, they are not for sale. But each of them formed part of a mindfulness session I did on my own. And the only reason they are on these postcard sizes is because I can just about take them anywhere and, hone in on a specific topic, make a collection of them, and they are just big enough for me to scan into the computer, digitize, and then use exactly as they are into floral pattern designs, or like this one, the plums with the sweet peas. Now, Mary asked, and this is question 3. Mary asked, can you show me how to make the watercolors fade? I guess what I mean is how to make it look so dreamy, when the colors start out strong. So I think she's referring to this. When the colors start out strong and then goes away or melts away. I keep on trying to do it, but somehow the paint looks like paint and not like yours. All right. So with watercolor, you have different options. So you do have watercolors that come in these dry pans. These are half pans. They are the small ones. And these sizes are like the Gansai Tambi size, which is a full pan, but then this doesn't make sense. And that should be a quarter pan, right? But anyway, doesn't matter. You get the picture. These are in dry cakes in a pan, and then you get them in tubes, and you also get them in ink bottles. Now, I generally use this because of its portability and the ease of use. So you can use the mixing well that comes with your palette like that, or like I'm going to do today, like over there. Now, when you wake up your palette, you, of course, spray it with a little bit of water. There are some people who believe you only wet the ones you're going to use. You don't wet your whole palette. And in a way, I do agree with that. But this is not my fancy palette. This is my everyday play and use as I like palette. And because of that, I just spray everything and get it wet. Now we do need a page to work on. So let's first start here. This is called a wash of one color. This is called a gradated wash. And this is called a color gradation. In other words, it goes from one color to another color and blends seamlessly in the middle. This is when you have a flat wash and you drip water in. This is a flat wash and you drip color in. This is a flat wash that has salt or crystals or rice drizzled in there and left to dry and scraped off. These marks are when you use a wet brush and you wet a certain area and go over it, and then use your tissue to stop that up. Can you see how that wetness removed some of that paint? And let's do that over here as well. So you can wet a certain area in a shape you want and then dab out. And it will lift some of that color. So this is a lifting technique. So you wet that paint again. Don't scrub at it, just gently wet it and then use firm pressure on a clean tissue paper and lift that off. Now that is especially useful if you have a mask or a shield, like for instance a stencil, and you want to stencil out a background pattern. Really useful for that. What we did here was I wet the whole section, and then while it was very wet, dipped in some pre-mixed color, then gave it a few minutes to rest and dripped in that same mix again and gave it a few more minutes and dripped in more paint in that area. So you have 3 different effects depending on how wet that paper is. This one was the same as that. It was a flat wash with some or other grain, I think, or maybe like this texture on the tissue papers. So while it was wet, to lift it off with that texture, that helps a lot. Now I want to show you something really quickly. Off to the side, I'm literally just taking some of that indigo and I'm going to put it down here. Now it's not the real ashy indigo, but it is a really dark blue indigo. And I think I might have mixed it up with some of that aquamarine. And when you have that wet area there, now this is solid color. And what you can do is, while that's wet, to introduce more water. Now you'll see it's going to not blend evenly because it didn't have water to go to in the first place. But every time you add more water into an unused area, you'll see the paint fade out to that. But this is an awful version of that because I didn't use the right technique. So then what is the right technique? Well, this is the right technique. You wet the area that you want to do the gradation in and give the water some time to move into that whole block of water. Now you can lift it up and see the gloss on your page and make sure it's evenly glossy. Now remember when I told you this was a really cheap Montmartre watercolor book? I'm sure you can see that. And I like this to play in because it's really inexpensive. And you can try hundreds of effects and work on both sides of the paper and solve the pages with all kinds of practice pieces. You have to practice and you have to use the different techniques for the things that you want to use them for in the end. So the water has seeped in evenly, it's wetted evenly. And now we're going to use that same color. I'm mixing up a little bit on the palette here, just like that. Just put a little bit of that blue in just to get my color mixed. And taking a little bit of that, I start at that top with a nice saturated color. And without rinsing the brush, just introducing more water. Now, obviously, you are going to use much less if you are filling in a petal, for instance. You're definitely not going to use as much as I used here. Now, if it happens so that you have messed this one up as well, I would suggest wetting your brush because watercolor just works so much better when you have some water going on. And that pigment can only go where the water is. And that is a much more even wash and more gradated. Now, if you want to remove some of the pigment that lay in puddles, you are going to use a dry brush so you can squeeze out some of that water and glide your brush and push out some of the water. Now, always work from the lightest side to the darkest side in a big wash like this, or just stop up the dark puddle or the wet puddle where it's pooling up. All right. We'll give that a second or so to seep up, and then I'll have a look at the comments quickly and see if we have anybody who asked something. Oh, there's just one little thing in the chat. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay, so let me read it to you. Can you show us a object? What do you mean, to paint? Oh, you mean to do a demo? Okay, we'll do a demo. Hang in there. Okay. Now, obviously, I can't turn this page over onto itself because that is wet. I'll have to either try another page Or let's use the reefs. Now I haven't used the reefs recently, but I did spot it at our local stationery shop, and it should be kind of fun today to play with this and see if it has either changed or stayed the same since I last used it. Got a little bit of washi tape here. It's completely optional for you to use washi tape. I'm just thinking, well, maybe I'll just do 4 postcards anyway and see how that goes. I haven't done one of these in a long time. So just on those edges, I'll put some washi. And yes, the middle. Does that look like the middle? It looks like the middle. Let's go for it. And then there. But, and how's that? Is that in the middle? Let's hope so. Okay. So what shall we do first? A little bit of a wet in wet. And what colors do you want? I am not getting anything from the chat, so I guess I'll have to improvise. We've got a nice blue there. And how about the pink? Nice soft pink. Maybe a darker pink. Oh, that's like almost an orange. Just mix up a few colors here. I don't know if I'm going to use all of them, but let's see. Oh, you say flowers. Okay. That's easy. Now, to give you an idea, let's make a few random shapes. I can always erase them later. About 2 on each. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So I wonder if you can see that. Just random round shapes with the leaves. So let's do flat washes in that one. So if you can recall correctly, it's using mixed up color and just filling that area with your pre-mixed color. And we'll do the same with our leaves. We'll use that pre-mixed color and just fill it with a solid color. And remember, when we have a pool, we can soak up the pool. Okay. For this one, let's use, I want to make this one flower slightly bigger. So let's use a gradation. Now I'm going to wet the whole thing first, then take a bit of color and put it in on the one side and just let it do its own thing. So I'm not going to put color into this area. I'm just going to let the color work on that side. Now you'll see when you start to move your page that that color sort of seeps into that area, and that is fine because the color will go where the water is. And all I did now was add a little bit of water, and if it's too much, you can always soak it up like that. All right, let's do the same with that one. So first we get water in there and then a little bit of color. Now there's a bit of a blob of the color. I'm just going to soak that up. There we go. All right. Then on this one, let's do a color gradation from one to the next. So for that, you don't have to actually wet the area because both of the colors are going to meet each other. So you can have the one color, rinse your brush thoroughly, and then use the other color and make sure they touch each other. Again, let's get that one slightly bigger. Going to go into that washi tape, but that's all right. So we get some color on the dry page, put that in, rinse the brush thoroughly, and then get some of the second color. Make sure they touch and just leave it. And in this one, let's wet the flower section and get some color in that center and leave it to spread into the water. Now you can add more, but stick to that center. Don't move into the wet areas. So you're basically gonna, can you see that the wet area? So that color might just move into that wetness as we progress. But to help that along, we are going to dab a little water in the center and just let that do their thing. Now, let's do the same here with this one's leaves. The technique we used here was a color to water gradation, and for that we needed our area wet and of course our leafy color. So I think I want the majority of the color on this side fading into nothing. Maybe add more water in areas where it looks like it doesn't want to mix. I mean, once you know these techniques and have practiced them, it should actually be really easy to sit down with your sketchbook and hone in on that moment that you get so drawn in by the feeling of being in the zone that you really don't need much to feel like you're having a proper sketchbook session. Now for these ones, we're going to use the same technique as we did here, a color to color gradation. So for that, again, using color, and then while that edge is wet, get in our secondary color and make sure they touch. A bit bright there, but let's soak some of it. I prefer that. So somewhere along the line, the outside sunlight has dissipated, giving us a really sharp look on this page. But anyway, there we go. Do the same with that one. So while that edge is wet, bring in that second color and make sure they touch. And then for this one, I might not use that same technique for the leaves, but let's see how that could possibly happen. I mean, we can always add more and more layers. So what I'm doing now is wetting the area where the leaves are, and we're just going to dip in some of the color. And let it run where it wants to. From here, in these ones, we can either lift out or add. So let's add first. We can add those second layers and third layers of color. And depending on how many layers you want to do, you could actually thicken up that mix or thin it down some more. the more concentrated that is, the longer it will settle, or the faster it will settle, let's put it that way. As long as it's wet and soft, it will move like there. Now you can have a hard edge like that and then soften it up by touching one of those edges with a little damp brush. See how hard that edge is now? If you just touch that with your brush, you're automatically softening up that one edge. And it's really up to you how much softness you want to bring in and how much hardness. Like for instance, this. It has formed a really hard edge there. And all you have to do is with a damp brush, just go over that area and blend it out. Same with these. I don't like that it didn't move far enough. So with a damp brush, I'm loosening up that edge and just pushing the remnants of those colors into that shape. You still have those really soft centers, but without that hard, harsh edge. All right, same with that one. You can add color, remove color, layer your colors, use your brush tip to define where you want fine lines, a thick, broad line. And if you want the color to be thicker, obviously you use a more concentrated color. And then like in that center, if you want to have it look a little darker, you just dab a little darker color in there. So for this one, we can do the same. Cute little rosebuds. Now let's say you went onto that edge and you actually meant it to have less color. Damp brush, lift it out. Well, a damp brush to blend it like that, soften the edge, and then whatever is extra, steep it up, soak it up with that damp brush. Okay, now something really interesting you can also do is create soft washes around your drawings or paintings. Now to do that, you'll need the darkest version of your color, for instance. Lots and lots of concentrated color here. So I'll just work on this bottom one so you can see it better. And from one edge, work with that solid color, cutting into outline the leaves or the flowers or whatever you've got there. All right. And while those edges are wet, you can either introduce more color or more water, and then do a color to color gradation. And for that to happen, you need that edge to stay wet. So you can't be dillying and dallying about over here. You need to move that color through that wet edge. So it means there's a droplet there that you can connect your water or pigment with. And of course, make it interesting by creating texture with your brush, switching between colors. Let's say you want an imaginary flower to appear there. Well, put it in. with this very same technique, you can bring in patterns in those edges of those leaves so that they don't just look like perfect little cutouts. By cutting into that edge and giving them that textural effect. Now this only works when your paint puddles around that shape is wet. So I'll show you a little closer what I mean. You see how I cut into that edge? So what if you want a, let's say, a light background? Now you'll just mix up a lighter color, of course. So for this one, let's use a light pinkish background. And you'll be surprised at how effective it is to use the leftover colors in your palette. It really helps to tie your elements together and also make it a little more interesting. Even if you have a dirty puddle mix like this and accidentally have a drop of the blue go in, all I want you to really be mindful of is not to make muddy colors, because that mud really can spoil your image a little bit. So here we've stuck to a fairly monochromatic color, and because it's similar or lighter to some of the areas, we can't really cut into those leaves to further define them, which is fine because in this version we might want those smooth leafy bits like that. And it also makes it look really interesting. So by the time we're done with all 4 of these, they will all look like they belong together because we use the exact same colors. And you can also do that with your own projects where you use one color palette to create different projects with different techniques and tie them in with your color or the composition style or even the subject matter. Now, in this case, we've pulled in nearly every technique we can think of and also used a very familiar subject in all 4 of them. And that makes for a really pretty addition. I'm just going to flip this around because I don't want to push my hand into the wet paint and do something here with the leftover blue. Now I'm merely going to put in as much color as, well, of the same color, put it that way. I'm not going to mix up the colors. I'm going to try and keep this one as even as possible. Okay, and for that one, let's use some of those pinks that we worked with earlier. Now we can further embellish these and add a few more leafy patterns or leafy things. So let's do. Let's do with this one. I mean, none of this is really thought through. I was going by the spur of the moment and totally unplanned, which is why we are doing these sessions, so that we can just come together, relax, answer a few questions, and see what we can come up with in these short little creative sessions. Now, I'm sure if we spent a little bit more time planning and thinking these things through, we might come up with something a whole lot wilder and vibrant or different. But like I always say, you can go back and change anything at any time by redoing your project. You don't have to settle for this one or only this one. And you can layer and add more little rose thingies or other little flowers. Now you'll see those are just circular blobs with color. That's really all they are. And I'm just going to dab in some green, give them a leaf here and there. Some might not even look like leaves. That's what's all. So after reading today's questions, or the questions that were submitted, I really wanted to just dive into a little meditation session to show everybody how quick and easy you can really make pretty things while being quietly mindful all by yourself. Now, I know I did talk quite a bit, but you can grab hold of this video again and in your own time, as quiet as you like, go over and try some of these techniques and see what you can come up with. Now, hopefully, we are almost on the hour. There's a couple of minutes left, and I'm finishing off as we speak, and I'll make sure to upload this as soon as possible. No, Joe, these aren't available for the public, and if you are in the membership, the self-mastery membership, you'll have access to these again. Every now and then I do feel inspired to share some of these sessions or the footage, but they mainly go on to the membership replays. Now you can reach out to me and ask me about that if you want, or we can, I don't know, maybe give it a think and see if we're going to make them more available. The whole thing is actually so that you do come to this sketchbook session. And I only host it once a month. And if you schedule in this time to take care of your own well-being. I know life happens and a lot of things are going on in the world, and you might not be able to join. And I'm really sorry if that's how things are for you or the people you care about. But please try and come whenever you can. Now, some colors that layer on top of each other really don't give good colors. So test it out and make sure you're going to be happy with your result. I take no responsibility for accidental color bomb blobs. And you know what? Our imaginations are so wonderful. They just fill in all those missing bits for us and tell our eyes that these are roses. And when you look closely, you'll see that they really are only blobs of color and layered effects, and nowhere near anything that resembles a rose. Shapes, and that's about it. Right, I think we have reached the end. Let me flip it back up. So here we are, ready to say goodbye. Thank you for joining me today. Hope you had lots of fun. I'll scan these in when I'm ready and we can have a look at them and just see how they came out. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening. Bye.